Will the guests please rise for the official party and remain standing for our national anthem and invocation. Captain. DOD Group 2 arriving. Ladies and gentlemen, our national anthem.
Side voice. Left, right, face.
Ladies and gentlemen, Lieutenant Commander Sal Dintu, U.S. Navy retired, will now deliver the invocation.
Ladies and gentlemen, today, before we begin, and as we pray for the Father's blessing on this retirement, and for the many years, please remember those who are currently in harm's way defending our freedoms. Let us also remember the deep sea warriors who paid the ultimate price for our freedom with their lives. Let us pray. Eternal Father, whose arms are strong to save, whose arm hath bound the restless wave, who bids the mighty ocean deep its own appointed limits keep. We give you the side this morning and pray for all assembled who tread under the sea as their chosen profession. As we gather to remember and reflect on a career of distinction, receive our thanks for the many times you kept watch over Tim, for the times you were father and teacher to his children in his absence. We thank you for Sam, who has brought so much healing to Tim. Thank you for the love and support shown through family and friends. Lord, as Tim comes up and over the side one last time, we are thankful that the diver is on the deck and the diver is okay. Thank you for these 20 plus years of passionate, sacrificial, and dedicated service to us all. Lord, as we celebrate the successful career of our brother, a father, a son, and a friend, we not only celebrate a career, but an example of passion for his Navy, his country, and his family. We embrace your presence and we ask for your hand to be upon us this morning. In my Savior's name, Jesus the Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Side boys. Up, bow, face. Forward, march.
Will the guests please be seated? Good morning, Captain Jackson, officers, chiefs, sailors, and all of our special guests. I'm Master Chief Chuck Stansberry, and it is my distinct honor to be the Master of Ceremonies for today's events. It is wonderful to have so many of Tim's family and friends here with us today. I would like to welcome his adoring wife, Commander Samantha Dooley Andros, and his sons Jacob Andros and Lance Corporal Jesse Andros, and Tim's father, CTR Senior Chief Stephen Andros, United States Navy, retired, and other relatives and friends who have traveled here for this momentous occasion. I would like to extend a special welcome to all of you and invite you to relax and enjoy today's ceremony as we honor Chief Warrant Officer 4, Tim Andros. All right, those of you that have known Tim for a while may have wondered, why did he do that? Or where he came from. Well, allow me to shed some light for you and introduce his father, Senior Chief Retired Stephen K. Andros.
Good morning, one and all. Is this an awesome day or what? Hoorah! BC! It is definitely an honor and a distinction to be here. I say a distinction because representing our family is my grandson, Lance Corporal Jesse Andros, my son, Lieutenant Commander Stephen Andros, my daughter-in-law, Commander Samantha Dutilli Andros, naturally myself, and the one we're here to honor today, my son, Chief Warrant Officer 4, Timothy Andros. If you add all those people together, the accumulated service that the Andros family has put together for this country is 93 years. You can add 10 to that if you would add my father, Stephen Andros, who's probably looking down right this very second from the balconies of heaven, with his 10 years, giving us a total of 103. And with Jesse bringing up the rear, we're still clocking time, buddy. Thank you. Throughout the warrant's time in service, I have got to attend quite a few milestones throughout Tim's career. From the boot camp send-off, July 4th, believe that or not, 1990, way back in the olden days, to today's event, which kind of bookends his whole 27 years plus career. Of all the promotions that I got to attend throughout Tim's career, the most unique, at least for me, was one which I actually didn't attend, well, physically anyway. And that was one conducted when he made Chief Warrant 3 back in 2010. My younger son, Lieutenant Commander, then Lieutenant Stephen Andros, if you could fathom this, I'm now a civilian, and I get a wake-up call about 0900 one morning, still asleep, didn't have my coffee, and it's my son Steve saying, "Dad, how would you like to give the oath of promotion for Tim?" And I said, "Sure, but when and where?" He goes, "In about 10 minutes. I said, "Well, but had my coffee, I'm still in my house coat, and I don't know the oath anyway." He goes, "I'm going to read it to you." All right, so I'm taking it down, I write it down, I give it back to make sure I'm not garbling it. And up to this point, I believe my older son was under the assumption that his commanding officer was going to be the one that was going to be the administering the oath. Well, if you could imagine, if you will, Steve standing there with a cell phone, and thank God we didn't drop the call, and there it was, and the lights went on for Tim when the commanding officer said, "And now we've got a retired senior chief from Myrtle Beach," and then, So it went down without a hitch, and to my remembering, I said in retrospect, I'm sorry that I didn't call rope yarn over the phone, so to the uninitiated, it is a throwback to the sailing days when sailors at the end of the day's work would have nothing to do, and they would, sew together rope or mend the sails or whatnot, so it meant knock off shift's work, but I didn't have the guts to do that, so. You can do it today. It's a given that a father wants their offsprings to succeed, but I look back now kind of like a Sunday morning quarterback, and I can say there were definitely some events in my son's life that, had I been a little bit more aware, I would have probably had a clue as to what he was going to do in the Navy. So like I said, looking backwards, it's always easier. I'd like to share a few of those events with you today. Go back with me to Keflavik, Iceland, age 10, when Tim decided that he wanted to get his swimming badge. And that would enable him to go to the pool without towing his old man, and he could go and swim until he was tired. So we go there, and Tim had to do for the lifeguard 4 round trips. Actually, I think it was maybe 4 trips, up and back, and I believe it was like an Olympic-sized pool inside. And then at the end, in the deep end, he had to go down to the bottom of a 12-foot pool on a breath hold, touch the bottom, and come back up. And if you can imagine, I'm walking back and forth, giving him encouragement. I guess his younger brother and my wife were there. Come on, Tim, you can do it, you can do it. He went down and he missed the bottom by inches, and you could tell. Well, this lifeguard must have been an ex-Navy master diver or something, because he made him go down again. And I was like, oh, you've got to be kidding me. So he did, he passed, and he got his badge. So, Navy diver in the future? Chiking. Missed it. Navigational skills at age 11. You might be thinking, now where did he get those? I claim it was from doing Pac-Man a whole lot. Now, I know you laughed, but I can make the analogy. Try this. Anybody that's played Pac-Man, you have to reach an objective. You have to evade or chase an enemy. You have to adjust routes in a fast-changing environment. And you have to move with timing, speed, and precision. Not the way I used to play it, because I was more like the Hansel and Gretel trying to pick up the white crumbs, and I was always getting lost and getting beat. So, land navigation school, Chiking. How about at age 12, marksmanship skills? If you look at the warrants ribbons, you can see 2 ribbons on the bottom row that have E's on them, indicating expert. Where did he get those? At age 12, he had honed to perfection with a BB rifle when he actually accurately engaged my younger son riding his bicycle, a moving target, and hit him in the leg. Now, I didn't know this at the time. I'd probably had him in the brig had I known that, but it went down later.
It was only one pump, he said. Just one pump. It's all right, I swear.
Okay. So, firearms qualification, Chiking. So as you glimpse at the warrants ribbons, maybe with a little bit of myopic eyesight like mine are starting to become, those 2 E's might look kind of like BB, you know? 6 years later, in high school, JROTC, as drill team captains, Tim and his lifelong friend, Johnny, who's retired torpedoman chief, is with us here today, and his wife. Thank you. They led their company to the championship drill held in Clemson, out in the western part of South Carolina. Up to that time, I had no idea what kind of commitment and drill went down to perform that and win the state championship. So I was very impressed. I think that further signaled commitment to the military and maybe what he might be in the future. It was about that same time frame I noticed as a father one day at the Goose Peak High School there was a rappelling tower. And I looked at Tim and I said, what's the rappelling tower doing, like on a ball field? He said, well, as members of the ROTC, we go off that on occasion. And I thought, you've got to be kidding me. Where did you get the nerve to do that? I said, I could never do that, honestly. Well, fast forward about 4 years after that in Myrtle Beach, again when my 2 sons got in collusion. Remember how I said there's no way I would do that? Well, in collusion, these 2 joined forces and dragged me bungee jumping. Now, I don't know if anybody here in the audience has bungee jumped. Have you ever been to the top of a 3-meter swimming pool board and looked down at the pool and said, oh my God, how come it's looking so much higher? When you're actually probably looking at the bottom of the pool. Well, magnify that 4 times to 80 feet and get up to the top and look down. Well, to sweeten the deal, Tim actually paid for the whole jump. But it actually took me, truthfully, more than one authoritative command from the bungee master to jump. And what actually had me upset at the time, but I was trying to hide that, was the teenage girls ahead of us at the time were going down head first, no fear, yelling, laughing. It became painfully aware to me that I was not going to be jumping like a girl. Not head first anyway. So we get up there. I finally did jump feet first and made it down to the bottom. And over burgers and cokes, I think the next hour, I remember my younger son saying, "Dad, we thought you were going to chicken out." I almost did. And for the record, I think this is true, but my lane bungee jump, which was feet first, is actually the way you do go out of an aircraft when you're hooked up to a static line, so feet first ain't too bad. In retrospect, the signals were there, but they were lost on me, and as the saying goes, the rest was history. Those of you here today that have known Tim since high school, maybe even earlier, I would venture to say there's a lot of you here that know him even better than I do. And with that in mind, I'd like to share this with you. I don't know how many here have often said, "I wished I was a fly on the wall," that proverbial fly, to see how things went down. You know, to be there, to see how it really was. Well, I've often wished that in the case of my son's career. Actually, that got to happen to me when I least expected it. I'll take you back to many years ago when we were on a dive trip. Tim and I went on the Cooper River to a place called Strawberry Landing. Now that place might sound like something from, TV and very tranquil or whatnot, but it was actually my first dive where we had low visibility. So we went down to about 60 feet, but before we go down, Tim is instructing me on what we should do if we were to come up in emergency. Since the visibility was very low and we were lashed together with a line, he said, he looks me right in the eye with authority and confidence, grabs me by my buoyancy compensator, takes the secondary mouthpiece and said, "Dad, if we have to come up in emergency, I'm going to hold on to you, and I am going to dole out the air if we have to buddy breathe." It put me at ease, but that's all I needed to know about the rest of his career from my perspective. I read in an interview recently, someone talking with Commander, the astronaut Scott Kelly. After the interview, he was asked what he thought might have been the reason he succeeded in his career. And I kind of paraphrase him here. He said, "Achievement that seems to belong to one person in particular actually has the efforts of many others." And I agree with that. That is where you, the audience, come in here today. You being here for today's ceremony, your involvement throughout his career has been where the rubber meets the road. That kind of support. Whether you're family, even you guys. If you're military, civilian, whether you're a peer, a junior, or a senior, you have been all an influence on Tim's career. Collectively, you are the people that he thought of when he took the oath that he solemnly reaffirmed. On a final note, then I'll shut up. On a personal note, years ago in the 80s, and I told you my father was a chief during World War II. My parents had come down to see us in Charleston, I'll say probably around 1983. My mom was recounting to me when they went back home the look in my dad's eye when they stopped in the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel. And about that time, there were ships probably exiting and entering the port. And my mom looked at him and she says, if I didn't know better, she says she suspected that he was reliving his younger days in the Navy and the distant but fond memories. I really believe she was right because I'm guilty of the same thing. I have done that. So for those of you who are still in the military or serving right now, my hope for you is that may your future reflections of service past bring back the same feeling of a job well done. Fair winds and following seas to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Andros. At this time, it gives me great pleasure to introduce the guest speaker of today's ceremony, Lieutenant Commander Stephen Andros.
Water for you.
I don't cry, it's allergies. Wow. Following the footsteps of my father, a lot of great words.
So I'm going to probably go off script a little bit, but saw some notes anyway. But and following with what Sal had mentioned in his prayers, makes me think back to General Luck. For most, probably don't know him. I had the opportunity to meet him a few years back, and he teaches at the general officer and flag officer level. He was a retired cowboy, but he'd often speak of a couple quotes to the new flag officers, and he said, "Hey, don't ever think you're so big or such a tall tree in the woods that a small dog won't come along and piss all over you." And I think about that, and I think about another one he said is that there's more to riding a horse than sitting in the saddle looking good. You got to take care of it. You got to water it. You got to feed it. And then he ends it with, I think, a more appropriate quote that I'd like to follow up with, and that Sal inadvertently reminded me of, and that is, to touch humanity is bigger than oneself. And that's kind of how I think about Tim as my older brother, mentor, guider. He's led the way for me and followed the footsteps, and we'll get into that a little bit. But first of all, before I forget, and now I go back to the notes, is thank you all for coming. It's a Saturday on our day off, and somehow this unicorn, what they call a Mustang warrant officer, has got the Commodore here on a Saturday in his blues. Yeah, and I think that was mentioned earlier by his first chief. I think it was a discussion that they had. He said, "Tim, you really did become one of those guys." So what's that? I said, "How are you getting all these boys on their only day off on a Saturday in their blues?" So what he didn't know at the time was he got the Commodore to do it too. So, but thank you all for coming. To my dad, my aunts and uncles, my cousin coming from Pennsylvania, Sam. His oldest son Jacob couldn't be here. I believe he is sick, and his wife has double pneumonia, but I know they're here in spirit. Jesse here from Lejeune, my family, Kim, Liam, Logan, and Caleb. Yep, I'm watching you. Yep. Of course, Sam being here just in time. We were working and scheming some things in the background and the details there for this retirement. And to our other extended family, Johnny, Mrs. Smith, thank you. It's awesome. So Johnny was my bigger brother when Tim left in 1990, July 4th. He took over where Tim left off. So again, thank you for all being here. The special guest, I can't say enough. Chief Wayne Scott. Finally get to meet the man behind the story. Thanks for coming. We'll get to that story here in a little bit. Dave Sanders, his first LPO, part of that evolution in life there. Unfortunately, he's not able to make it. And then, more significantly, you can say more or less, but just as equal but different. Tim's brothers at arms, Adam Dexter. Where are you? There you are. Who I told has had a flat top since the day he was born. So I'm not sure that's true. But Jim Pruitt, Brian Cantrell. We got Jay Wheeler, Mass Chief Jay Wheeler, which there's a story there. I think we have to save that one for later. His first trip out and become a part of the Delta's unique flying club. Dave Cuthbert, Rob Russell, and Dan Cortez. And I apologize if I didn't say that right. Is that right, Dan? No, he's not here. No. But, these gentlemen here, unbeknownst to them, as they get ready for their 6-month deployment, head off to Bahrain, collect some great per diem. Talk about what it may be like to go to war, and then they get the call sometime, I guess, in December of 2002. The same time, Tim found out he made E6 after being the second-class petty officer of the Navy for almost a decade. I think it was a decade, which we'll circle back and tell you about that story a little bit and how Chief Wayne Scott helped shape that decade. But, they get the call. And one of the first units in Iraq for the second, you call it second invasion, the second cleaning house. in March of 2003 where they dove on live ordnance, finding the mines, getting mortared, getting shot at, and then blowing stuff up, beating the Brits, talking Cockney rhyming. Yeah, some of you know that. So, but I did my best to get out of this detail. But again, I figured that would be inappropriate as you got a lot of you young on your day off on a Saturday. I figured it'd be at least appropriate for me to come up here and talk a little about them. But I also realized that I'm probably the most qualified and the most authoritative figure in this room to talk about them. More so than Dad and Mom, if she was here, because you guys only saw the things that we did. I think it was in the makings with the BB guns you brought up, the jumping, the illegal driving. Well, let's just start back. So Tim, in Rota, Spain, my first memory was probably the most important lesson in life is in, see, most kids here are old enough and appropriate, and my kids are, and they've heard it, and I'm assuming being of a sailor family, they've heard a word or two, but I learned how to take an ass whooping, mostly by him. And when he got his fill, he put me in the sandbox with the kids in the neighborhood and strapped on gloves and matched me up to the next near peer competitor. I lost at many and won a few. Yep. The next life lesson, now that I could defend myself, was how to ride a bike. So at I guess about 4 years old. So in our day, bicycles had 3-4 variants of seats. Most of them had banana seats. I don't even think they make them anymore. But so, being the kid brother, I rode on the back of the banana seat, hanging on tight. Of course, ride around the neighborhood as big as the base was, which felt like eternity or infinite miles. He got tired of pedaling. He said, all right, get in the front. You're pedaling, I'm steering. Okay, I'm learning how to ride a bike. Then eventually turned into, all right, here, you steer. Now you get to pedal and drive me around. So I think he had me outweighed, outclassed by about 50 pounds. So that's how I learned how to ride a bike. I think at one point he just ditched me, jumped off, and I kept going. I guess the next major milestone was learning how to swim. There he was, teaching me how to swim. So the part my dad left out was, there was the shaping of a future Navy diver, but he didn't tell you the story about how he's going to become a salvage diver. So the part of the story why he never touched bottom was because he saw a salvage, something down there to salvage. Now, in our world, in the deep sea diving world, planes crash and we look at pilots and say, hey, you're a future salvage job, thank you. But there was the black box at the bottom of the pool. Although, in the aviation world, the black box is actually bright orange. Well, this black box was actually a black box, rectangular, and I suspect that it wasn't as big as it was in the beginning, as it started to absorb water. Well, what he had identified was human excrement. Number 2, you know, and that's also kind of ironic, is that number 2 is the signal to leave the bottom, right? Go to work. I take it back. Number 4 to leave the bottom, going home. But number 2, go to work, right? And I guess somebody did at the bottom of the pool. Yeah, I think Dad's comment was, are you sure that's not a Snickers bar? Well, it kind of looks like one, but I'm pretty sure Snicker bar doesn't belong on the bottom of the pool. So from there, Tim taught me how to ride a bike, swim, fight. As I got older, he taught me how to drive. Similar fashion. Here, work the shifter. I'm driving. Actually, I think you had a phone then, too. It was a brick phone. It's about this big. So I think, writing was on the wall where we were headed. And then at some point, it was going for me just using the shifter to steering. And then it's, hey, why don't you just drive? And at 13, 14 years old, I'm driving his Yugo. Yeah, Yugo. And interesting enough, the Yugo's spare tire is nowhere where you'd ever expect it to be. So another salvage job. We found it in the hood with the engine. Yeah, amazing. From there, I also learned, and also in the family trait and keeping up with the family traditions, how to drink. You know, and how to drink and get away with it. So, which also became a valuable lesson later in life. So, no, sir, we don't. No, sir, I did not say drink and drive. I did none of that. So there was a plan, and Tim had a plan, and that was teach younger brother how to drive so he could drink. So, yes. Start thinking about some other things that we get into. I'm going to circle back now and talk about Chief Wayne Scott, because it's one that I use quite a bit, and I alluded to Tim being the E5 Petty Officer of the Navy for 10 years. So Tim came in 1990. So for fun facts, 1990, U.S. and the U.K. send troops into Kuwait, and later on they invade Iraq. Fox TV that same year introduces which would now become the longest running sitcom, The Simpsons. Still going. Yes. Gas was 89 cents in Goose Creek, but had a national average of $1.10. And at that time, minimum wage was $4.10 an hour. The East and West Germany reunited. And for those who don't remember or weren't born, East and West Germany were two different countries on opposing teams. Also, 1990, the official deconstruction of the Berlin Wall happened. Also, that same year, they launched a satellite into space that would identify the ozone layer had a hole in it. Some had thought maybe that was due to us, mankind, which I think predominantly most of us believe that. Others say maybe it was just a vent hole that let out all the farts, all the cow farts, right? So that same year, they also introduced the first GPS satellite navigation system. It was introduced by Sony for $989. And then more notably, Nelson Mandela was released from prison and then became the first African-American, well, I'd say African-American, the first African president for South Africa. So, leading the way to hopefully shape and repair our differences in the world. Unfortunately, it seems that media has brought some negative attention to all that, and that's a whole nother soapbox of an issue. But so I'll remember another quote by General Luck, and that'll keep me on track. He said, "Make the main thing the main thing." So we'll get back. Let's talk about Tim. So Tim, 1990, he goes and wants to be a torpedo man, but I think only one of our brothers successfully did that, right, Johnny? Yeah. But never to fail. Tim fell, and he got back up. And thanks to his LPO and chief, he found his way getting in trouble a little bit, getting into the mess decks, going cranking, for those of you who remember that. And it was time to make E4, but because he wasn't striking and wasn't working in the rate, which I think will go down in history because you never had been to an A school in 27 years and had 3 rates. No official training. So there goes a little bit about some dedication, fortitude. Nonetheless, Chief said, "Don't worry about it. I ordered you an exam." I said, "Really? How'd you do that?" I said, "I ordered you an MS exam," which now is CS, culinary specialist, but mess specialist as we used to call it. And he made 3rd class, ahead of his peers. It's because he had all that time cranking. Yeah, for getting in trouble. And then Chief had said, "Hey, I can get you 2nd class." I said, "How's that?" He said, "Just star re-enlist." He said, "Like I said before, I want to be a torpedo man. I don't want to be a mess crank. I don't want to be a mess specialist." He says, "It's not about that. It's about a bigger picture. This is an opportunity to get a little more money in your pocket, advance, get in a leadership position, and show them what you're worth." So he sends him off to C school, got a little bonus, and became the night baker, which I hear is probably the better jobs to have. he did that, which ultimately, I think it's somewhere he lost the idea of ever becoming a torpedo man, and he went on with it, but he discovered his, or rediscovered his passion for the water, and wanted to become a deep sea diver. So, in the 90s, leaving submarine force was fairly difficult. They put a lot of money into it. We were in the middle of the Cold War, and submarines was the number 2, or maybe even the number 1 deterrent against nuclear aggression from Russia and possibly the Chinese. And so to get out of the submarine community was near impossible. But what you know, as the night baker and the mess specialist, he was able to cater for parties for the captains and the commodores in his tuxedo, and that was his way to get introduced to some of the decision makers, like the admirals, Konechny and a few others. And that was his opportunity. That was his way to get in. And the admiral bought off, and I said, yeah, we need people like you to take care of ourselves, maintenance, and then do other great things. So on he goes. He gets into the diving world, and that's where he said, hey, Steve, I'm going to be a diver. I said, well, that's great. I was thinking about the same thing, but I didn't know how to go about it. So again, Tim leading the way for me. And we met up in dive school, and just like my dad did, walking along the edge of the pool, rooting him on. My brother, after my third attempt at what I thought was the 2,000-yard base swim, and I would tell you, and all the divers out here, you know those guys, they put that buoy out further in Gator Bayou than what it really is. Okay, we all know that. So any instructors in here, I know, you're just like the recruiter. Lie. So as I got older, though, I realized, though, that nobody lies. The truth changes, right? So it was 2,000 yards. It's just the truth changed. So there's Tim in the lean and rest, because he's cheering me on. He said, well, if you're going to cheer your brother on, get in the lean and rest. I said, sure, I'll do them all day. So fortunately for me, I passed. I think that was in the days before all that protein powder and creatine, and I had the Ultimate Orange Kim bought me because I told her that's what I needed to pass the test. So I don't know, that was another gimmick. But you know, between Tim and Ultimate Orange, my wife shaking her head, yeah, okay, here you go. But I did pass, thanks, Tim. So, we go off to Hawaii together, MS2 Deep Sea DV. I go to SDV, he goes to Mutsu, and I think that's where he met Coy and I guess a few others. And then we made our own paths, made our own names for each other, but always being each other's sounding board. And again, trying to shoot each other with BB guns whenever we could. A few years later, then he goes and continues on, still an E5, still taking the MS exam, which is kind of ironic, but they were hoping that he would be able to make MS1 before the forced conversion. At some point, I think it would have been either Master Diver Sackman or Master Diver Irvin, bless his soul, said, no, you got to cross rate. You got to become a rate that we find useful. So it became an engineman, which was kind of funny because he couldn't find the tire on a Yugo, right? So,
There were 4.
yeah, well, there was 5. It was one in the engine room, right? So he became an engineman, and eventually he did make E6. Of course, after being an E5 for a decade. A decade sounds better. Yeah. How many exams can they recycle in 10 years? So he makes first class, and then they go off to Iraq. Well, you know, the boys on Det 6 realized that he had a talent. He had uses and skills that they could utilize. You know, we didn't have enough EOD techs then, and we're trying to increase the number of folks that we could put down range. So all that hard work set him up for success as he went to first class dive school, where I get to see him again. At this point now, I'm wearing khakis and butter bars as an ensign, and I get to do my first re-enlistment. Now it's for my brother, so of course I got to memorize this thing. Quite an honor there too. So I guess it's kind of fitting as I sit here now doing my first re-enlistment, his last re-enlistment as a blue shirt, and on to putting on khakis. That same year, he put on chief first time up, and then one of his mentors, chiefs, and then warrant officer, encouraged him to apply for the warrant program. Got picked up first time up. And I think this is a story I like to use for all the younger guys who seem to have a hard time with their multiples. in the certain numbers that it is, maybe 15%, I think it's what it's going at, maybe a little higher, a little less, but then I remind him, here's a guy who did it for 10 years when his final multiple at some points were quad zero. And I'd seen that as well, but it's funny, he said, well, if my multiple is zero, and I got 180, shouldn't I have passed? And the answer was, no, young Andros. Quad zero means there's not a big enough number. It means an infinite. Of course, then you would think then everybody advances. No, that means nobody advances. So we look at those numbers, we remind our younger generation that sometimes the numbers doesn't matter. Perseverance and dedication does. It gets you over the hump. And Tim showed that, and it paid dividends, because in a matter of 5 years, going from E5 to W2, nobody would have imagined it, not even Tim himself. So when you look at it from a different perspective, then again, you can see how hard work and perseverance pays off. And I will tell you, and I know Tim has spoken of it, and I talk about it the same way, is that none of our successes could have been there without people like you. Without the support from family, without the support from the chief. To this day, I know Tim, just like I do, can remember every single chief petty officer that I've worked for, or he has worked for, or worked with. We've never been successful without their help. And so, again, as General Luck would say, to touch humanity is bigger than oneself. And then we learned with that to touch humanity about giving back, making those behind us successful, doing everything we can to be successful. And so, as a younger brother, I say thank you. I've shifted gears some over the years. I've leaned less on you now, and I lean more on my wife. And that's appropriate. It's been hard many times, and, we share that bond, and we share those experiences, and I say thanks. I really do mean it. Appreciate it. Let's see, what else? Got lots of stuff. How much of your time? It is Saturday, so beer's getting warm. I think in that, think about some other things. There's 3 things that money can't buy. Fitness, we do it on a daily basis. Discipline, which he taught me in the sandbox. And ultimately trust, especially when he jumped off the back of that banana seat and let me ride that bike by myself. So again, just remember, money can't buy everything, but humanity and fitness, discipline, and trust can. So, thank you. Time to reach surface.
Thank you, sir. At this time, it gives me great pleasure to introduce today's presiding officer, Commodore Josh Jackson, Explosive Ordnance Disposal, Group 2.
Hey, good morning, maybe afternoon now. And Master Chief, did you mess with my speech again? Fool me once, you got me, but you're not going to fool me twice. I brought an extra copy. So I was sitting down with Tim recently. I wanted to make sure that he knew I was honored to be here today, despite the jokes. And it was special to me to be invited to be part of this big day. But I was getting to know him a little bit better and just kind of getting a sense of what I could talk about and what I could focus on. And as we were talking about his career and some of the things that have gone on with him, I told him, my wife always reminds me, since I'm not brilliant, I need to be brief. And he kind of shaking his head. And I said, no, this time I've done a few speeches recently, and this time I'm going for brilliance. And he got this very awkward look on his face, almost pain, angry, a little frustrated, kind of like that one right there. And I said, well, what's wrong? And he goes, look, we haven't worked together that long, but it's already clear to me you're not brilliant there, Tom. Brief. So in that sense, And let me say something. Senior Chief retired Crippy, right? Right. So that makes sense now. That was brilliant. And I learned more about public speaking listening to your remarks today than I have in 25 years of active service. And I'm very honored to have listened and to meet you and met you today and get to know you and your family. I am going to go off script, but there are a couple things that I want to hit. And I think that the introductions of the family members have been very complete. But I wanted to say that I've enjoyed an opportunity and will enjoy the opportunity to meet and get to know you today. And for Senior Chief, very thankful to be here. How's it feel to be the father to the best officers in the Navy?
I'm honored.
Right. Yeah, but let's get to brass tacks. Which one's your favorite?
It's okay, I outrank him.
For all the family members, you've made a tremendous difference, more so than you probably would know, and represent all of our Navy families that enable each of us to go to work each and every day, focus on the task at hand. And I had this in my remarks, and the Senior Chief really hit it, but I'd like to just take a second to foot stomp it. However, in the Andros family, you've also answered a call to service. Not only do you directly support mission readiness with your support to Tim throughout his career, but you volunteered to give so much more. I'm in awe of your family, Senior Chief. I'm truly speechless, but I would like to just take a moment to give you all a round of applause. I mentioned I sat down with Tim recently, and I want to say this, his eyes lit up when he spoke about his family, his direct family, his extended family, how proud he is of each of you. And at the risk of making myself and the other husbands in the audience look inadequate, he shared with me that Sam, you're his rock, his everything, his very best friend. With her, he said, he's able to do anything. I thought that was a great and very nice sentiment, and what a great perspective to have heading into the next phase of your life, Tim. Tim, you've had an exceptional career. Your leadership and actions, you and your sailors have demonstrated sustained, through your leadership and actions, have demonstrated sustained superior commitment to the mission, supporting planned and emergent operations around the globe. You've always been willing to step outside your comfort zone and try to achieve new things, a lot of which has already been hit. But starting off in the sub-farer program as an undesignated fireman, earning your submarine dolphins and advancing to second class in 3 years, and sustaining that rate for quite some time, as your brother mentioned. Remaining tenacious enough, Stephen hit that. 3 weeks after September 11th, being selected to be a member of Moby Unit 6, Detachment 6, many of your teammates are here today, have already been identified, but he also talked to me about how meaningful and impactful you were each on his career and his success, and he's very thankful for those that are here and those that aren't here today for the impact that you've had. Being sent to Iraq with Detachment 6, conducting 7 Mark 16 dives in the port of Qasr, looking for contacts designated as probable underwater mines. Being directly responsible for enabling the first humanitarian aid into the country of Iraq. Earning the Combat Action Ribbon, making chief on the first try, and getting commissioned to warrant officer on the first try. The list goes on. But it's really about the team, and that's been hit through several of the speakers today. And I thought that was nice and really well articulated when you and I sat down, Tim, and I appreciated that perspective. Tim, the Navy tells us it values integrity, accountability, initiative, and toughness, attributes that senior leaders talk about when we interact with the troops and deck plate leaders. But while others talk about it, Tim, after reflecting on your accomplishments, it's clear to me that you embodied those attributes throughout your career in a really impactful way. Also, the diver ethos is a very important document for the community. It centers us, it reinforces a culture of integrity, and enables us to move forward in the community on the same page. As I reflected on the ceremony today and prepared my remarks, it struck me about how some of the words in the ethos really apply to Tim. Specifically, my personal honor and integrity are above reproach and compel me to do what is right regardless of the circumstances. Courage is the hallmark of my trade. The accomplishments of the United States Navy deep sea divers are the benchmarks by which the world measures man's achievements in the sea. My specialized skills, undaunted spirit, and unbreakable will enable me to succeed in an environment where there are no second chances. Excellence is my standard. Tim, thank you for your service. I wish you and Sam the best and fair winds and following seas in your future endeavors. Thank you. Tim, if you want to join me on the stage.
Thank you, Commodore. Ladies and gentlemen, Captain Jackson will now present awards and certificates to Chief Warrant Officer in honor of his outstanding service during his naval career. Chief Warrant Officer 4 Andros, front and center.
So a couple of the standard retirement certificates, but I think I want to take I apologize for my awkward pause, but just take a minute to kind of make sure I highlight for the guests. You know, certificate of appreciation for service in the Armed Forces of the United States of America. Warrant Officer for Timothy W. Andros, I extend my personal thanks and sincere appreciation of our grateful nation for your contribution of honorable service to our country. To help maintain the security of the nation during a critical time in its history, with a devotion to duty and a spirit of sacrifice, keeping with the proud tradition of military service. My best wishes to you for happiness and success in the future. Donald Trump, Commander-in-Chief. Same from the Chief of Naval Personnel.
Will the guests please rise? Military, attention to award. The President of the United States takes pleasure in presenting the Meritorious Service Medal to Chief Warrant Officer 4 Timothy W. Andros, United States Navy, for services set forth in the following citation. For outstanding meritorious service while serving as Command Diving Officer, Explosive Ordnance Disposal, Group 2 from January 2016 to December 2017. Chief Warrant Officer Andros displayed unparalleled leadership while providing outstanding support to 4 Explosive Ordnance Disposal mobile units, a mobile diving and salvage unit, training and evaluation unit, an expeditionary support unit, and 10 short attachments. He supported the commander while attending the Salvage Executive Steering Committee and Explosive Ordnance Disposal Force Technology and Table Allowance Integrated Planning Team working groups, providing sound technical expertise in diving and salvage, shaping the future policies and procedures for diving and salvage in Navy diving. He researched the requirements for developing the first Explosive Ordnance Disposal non-program of record unmanned aerial systems capability and paved the way for future acquisitions, significantly enhancing Explosive Ordnance Disposal capabilities in a multitude of different mission areas. His achievements culminated in a distinctive career of 27 years of loyal and faithful service to his country. By his exceptional professional ability, steadfast initiative, and selfless dedication to duty, Chief Warrant Officer Andros reflected great credit upon himself and upheld the highest traditions of the United States Naval Service. For the President, B.J. Brackey, Rear Admiral, United States Navy. Mrs. Andros, will you and Jesse please join your husband on stage for a presentation? Certificate of Appreciation from the United States Navy. To all who shall see these presents, greetings.
Greetings.
To Samantha Andros, today, after completing 27 years of naval service, your husband has ended an honorable and faithful service to his country, and his efforts are sincerely appreciated. Such a rich and rewarding career reflects a strong commitment to the principles of freedom and democracy and the belief that they must be upheld at any cost. That type of total commitment is not possible without the full support of his entire family. As a service member, having carried out military orders and deployed into hostile waters, you understand the importance of support from family. That loyalty and dedication were significant courses of strength for your husband during arduous duty and exemplified the highest traditions of patriotism. On behalf of the Department of the Navy and the officers and crew of Explosive Ordnance Disposal Mobile Unit, or Group 2, I extend a sincere thank you and express our appreciation for a job well done. Given the 16th day of December 2017, S.J. Jackson, Captain, United States Navy, Commodore, EOD Group 2. And also to Jesse Andros, today after completing 27 years of naval service, your father has ended an honorable and faithful service to his country, and his efforts are sincerely appreciated. Such a rich and rewarding career reflects a strong commitment to the principles of freedom and democracy and the belief that they must be upheld at any cost. That type of total commitment is not possible without the full support of his entire family, that includes his children. Given the 16th day of December 2017, S.J. Jackson, Captain, United States Navy. Lieutenant Commander Andros, with family and friends, will now present Warrant Officer Andros with his shadow box.
Hey. Petty Officer Arneson and Chief Warrant Officer Baker will be up here in just a second, along with some other divers. Just wanted to have them present it. It was just an idea that I had, but I think the talent is kept within the community, and so they'll be bringing that up here in just 1 second.
All right, before they gets up to the stage, the shadow box has become a traditional gift throughout the U.S. Navy. Each item in the shadow box reflects significant facets of Warrant Officer Andros' service to his country. Included in the shadow box are rank insignia of advancements and promotions, warfare designators, campaign ribbons, and medals of the national ensign. In reality, it's just the I Love Me box. Will the guests please take seats? Tradition and as honor to your dedicated service to your country, on behalf of your shipmates here and those called to higher duty, we present to you the flag of the United States of America. This flag, one you have defended honorably and served proudly, is a true emblem of our unity and power as a nation. Accept it, guard it, protect it, and remember the young men and women you have trained and inspired who will follow in your footsteps and defend it with equal pride. Flag detail post. EOD Senior Chief Jim Pruitt, U.S. Navy retired, was asked by Tim to read Old Glory. They served together while stationed at Explosive Ordnance Disposal Mobile Unit 6 in 2001 to 2003.
I am the flag of the United States of America. My name is Old Glory. I fly atop the world's tallest buildings. I stand watch in America's halls of justice. I fly majestically over great institutions of learning. I stand guard with the greatest military power in the world. Look up and see me. I stand for peace, honor, truth, and justice. I stand for freedom. I am confident. I am arrogant. I am proud. When I am flown with my fellow banners, my head is held a little higher. My colors a little truer. I bow to no one. I am recognized all over the world. I am worshipped. I am saluted. I am respected. I am revered. I am loved. And I am feared. For more than 200 years, I have fought in every battle of every war. Gettysburg, Shiloh, Appomattox, San Juan Hill, the trenches of France, the Aragon forests, Anzio, Rome, the beaches of Normandy, the jungles of Guam, Okinawa, Tarawa, Korea, Vietnam, and in the heat of the Persian Gulf, and a score of other places. Long forgotten by all but those who were there with me. I was there. I led my sailors and Marines. I followed them. I watched over them. They loved me. I was on a small hill on Iwo Jima. I was dirty, battle-torn, and tired. But my sailors and Marines cheered me. I was proud. I was at Ground Zero in New York City on September 11th as cowardly fanatics attacked America. I was raised from the ashes of once proud buildings by brave firefighters, heroes who risked their lives to save others, showing all that America, although bloody, will never be beaten. Those who would destroy me cannot win, for I am a symbol of freedom, of one nation under God, indivisible with liberty and justice for all. I've been soiled, burned, torn, trampled on the streets of countries that I have helped to set free. It does not hurt me, for I am invincible. I have been soiled, burned, torn, and trampled on the streets of my own country, and when it is done by those whom I have served in battle, it hurts. But I shall overcome, for I am strong. I have slipped the surely bounds of earth. From my vantage point on the moon, I stand watch over the new frontier of space. I have been the silent witness to all of America's finest heroes, finest hours as well. But my finest hour comes when I am torn into strips to be used as bandages for my wounded comrades on the field of battle, when I fly half-mast to honor my sailors and Marines, and when I lie in the trembling arms of a grieving mother at the graveside of her fallen son or daughter. I am proud. My name is Old Glory. Long may I wait. Dear God, long may I wait.
When a diver is below the surface of the water and is done with his task, he will signal his team above with 3 line pulls, signifying to topside that he is taking up slack and getting ready to leave the bottom. He will make sure that he is not fouled or caught up on anything on the bottom or where he is working. We call this squaring yourself away. When he is ready to leave bottom and come home to the surface, he gives 4 line pull signals indicating he's ready to come up. Chief Warrant Officer Andros would now like to take this moment to square himself away before he leaves bottom. Ladies and gentlemen, it is with great pleasure that I present to you Chief Warrant Officer Timothy W. Andros. Warrant, right that rig. Report.
What do I do?
I stayed up till 4:30 this morning rewriting this thing. So if I sound a little weary, it's not because I'm emotional, it's because I'm tired. So, can everybody hear me okay? I've been thinking about this day since July 5th, 1990. Didn't know it'd last this damn long. All right. First of all, thank you for everyone showing up here. PAO, thank you if we're still streaming. Everybody that's not here to make it and just happens to watch this or maybe catch it later on Facebook. We have technology when it works, and I'm going to leave the explicits out when it didn't work because today we were supposed to have some cool video, the national anthem, and some Booyah Pride, Navy Pride, and I was even going to have some pictures up here of some of the people in my life that has really influenced me and got me where I'm at today as I go through this. So I usually don't have a hard time speaking in front of people, and most of you probably know that. I'm going to stick to my script so that we get through this and get to the end of this story. So I'll start. They say that a person's speech should be like a woman's skirt, long enough to cover the subject, yet short enough to create interest. I want to give thanks to acknowledge everybody that came here on a Saturday. Guys, if you heard my story while we're here today on a Saturday, I won't repeat it, but thank you everybody for coming here on a Saturday. I couldn't do it any other way and get everybody here that's here today. My family, you are my rock, and you're the reason what I do every day. My friends, every one of you out here, you are also what keeps me going every day. You and my shipmates. Wayne, I cannot begin to tell you what it means to have you here. Dead Six, you know where I feel, and you guys are more than just my shipmates, you are my brothers. So, staying on track, why am I speaking? It's because it's in the script. I've always thought about this day. Who hasn't? Anybody that's started off on a career and looks to retire, you think about this very day. Throughout my career, I've always wondered what it is I would say at my retirement. And now here it is, and I still don't know what exactly I'm going to say. There has been so many things that has gone through my mind, not just about what and how to say it, but why I need to say it. I've made countless mental lists of various topics, themes, and bullet points to try to convey. And as I pondered innocently about all this, I realized that as I reflected back through the years, that there is a common theme, and that's thankfulness. So why am I thankful? First, I'm thankful for God. When I look back at this incredible journey I've had, there were some things that I got to do and be a part of that were amazing, exciting, and made me feel very much alive. And then, of course, there were plenty of times I felt alone and uncertain, and there were even some times when the experience was so great that there was even some fear that my ears rang and my head pounded. I think back to Iraq when we had no idea what was going to be next. But he was there to give me a nudge and a comforting hand on my shoulder. He's been with me from the very beginning, and certainly with every step of this naval journey.
Even when I didn't feel like he was there, looking back, there's no doubt he was. So I'm thankful for God. It's a little known secret, but I was not always a warrant, not always a diver. You guys heard the story. I was once a skinny, snot-nosed punk kid who enlisted in the Navy without a promise of a rate. The only promise I had was 4 years to wear the uniform and to go on to submarine school. So when I reported to my first command, the USS Stonewall Jackson, a ballistic missile sub that was built 10 years before I was born, I was immediately put under the leadership of my very first chief, Mr. Wayne Scott, and my LPO, David Zander, both of whom with us are today, and also in spirit. We know that Dave couldn't make it unexpectedly, but I know he wishes he was here. I was such a mess that it took both of them taking turns to keep me from experiencing bulkhead leadership. I am standing here right now because they saw something in me that at that time I couldn't. I never did thank either of you. I was too young and naive to appreciate what you were doing for me then, so now I say to both of you, thank you. I'm very thankful for what you did for me so long ago. In January 2001, I began my second tour as a Navy diver in Charleston, South Carolina, EOD Mobile Unit 6. I reported aboard with, at that time, with 2 unique schools underneath my belt, Mark 16 rebreather and demolitions. At that time, there was no Navy diver A school, and those traits were very rare indeed for deep sea. Little did I know at that time that those skills would send me to places I never dreamed of ever going. 2 or 3 weeks later, after 9/11, I was pulled from the dive locker and reassigned to Det 6. I was a second-class hard hat diver thrown into the lion's den of 7 EOD techs. 4 of them are here today with us: Jim, Adam, Brian, Jay. As we prepared for an MCM deployment to Bahrain, I got to do some incredible things. I dove the ocean's depths, found mine shapes, not candy bars or human excrement. Hellfire missiles on the bottom. I got to shoot guns. Excuse my next word. I blew some shit up. I even jumped from helicopters and airplanes. All while wondering, why the hell is a deep sea diver doing this? With these new skills, I deployed with my team to Bahrain, not knowing that our 6-month deployment would turn into a 9-calendar-month war deployment. Because what we experienced together, the men I deployed with became more than my teammates. We became brothers for life. I am thankful for every one of you, and I would deploy in a heartbeat with you again. I am thankful for all the different people that I've met and the friendships I've made. Every single person has had some kind of impact on me that helped shape me into the leader I would become as a brand new chief and ultimately as a Navy warrant. Never in my wildest dream, as a young as another 18-year-old, I had no idea that I would grow up to be where I am today. I was smart enough last night to put in there, breathe, because I'm forgetting to breathe. Some of you have been here, seems like my whole life. Johnny, man, just like Steve says, you're my older brother by what, 6 days? You have a special part in my life and in my heart, and I'm very thankful you're here with your wife. Thank you for calling me, asking me to be his best speaker at his retirement, and thank you for helping me to conspire against him when we surprised his retirement when it wasn't pulling together. Thank you for all my other shipmates and friends. The list is too long for me to list each and every one of you because the beer's not going to stay cold. My wife makes fun of me the way I eat my food. I pick one thing and eat all of them before moving on to the next item, and finish that before moving on to the next, saving the best for last. I don't know what I would do. I don't know why I do it, but that's the way I do it. And so I'm saving my thankfulness for last, for the best. Sam, you came into my life. When I was at my lowest, you became my very best friend. Breathe. There we go. You showed me how incredible this world can be. You showed me love and gave me support that I didn't know that could exist. You love me for who I am. I'm extremely thankful for that. One night, when we met for a beer, God nudged us together that led to our first kiss. I love you, my boo. And in true diver fashion, I have to improvise again because I fell off script. I'm in zero viz right now, so I'm going to go by touch. Don't worry, it's G-rated. In the fog of the morning of 3.5 hours of sleep and only 1 cup of coffee, I forgot one of, you're right up there, Jesse. Jacob, if you're watching this when you're watching this, I am thankful for my 2 boys. You guys are what made me get up every single day to show you what can be accomplished, even though you may find it very hard to do or impossible. I am very proud that I got to swear in my oldest son, and though he didn't have the opportunity to put the uniform on for very long, he has found the resiliency and the perseverance to pursue another career, and he is doing amazing things. Jesse, it's a very deep honor to swear you in. I'm very proud of you. Took some adjustments on my part and creative thinking on my part to accept that you are one badass Marine. I look forward to helping you along the way with any words of wisdom. And I may partake just a second. I didn't think you liked flowers being a Marine. But I got this compass, and on it says, "Go confidently in the direction of your dreams. Live the life you have imagined." So when I'm not here to give you left or right rudder directions, this compass will help you. Keep it away from metal objects and other magnets. And I'm sure it's not very easy, so sneak it into your bag. Oh yeah. So here's my sneak attack. If you guys haven't fell asleep during this whole thing yet, my wife, she's in charge of a lot of important things and a lot of people. And it's been an amazing opportunity to watch her command the ship of a destroyer named the USS Oscar Austin. For those that don't know, it's named after a former Marine who lost his life. He paid the ultimate sacrifice here in Vietnam and was awarded the Medal of Honor and ultimately named the ship after him. Jesse's a Marine, so I saw some significance there. And I asked if, since he called Sam his stepmom, and it tugged on my heartstrings when he did that, I asked if she would fly a family flag that was given to me of an uncle of ours that also served in Vietnam. He's no longer with us. So last night, Sam was turning 2 screws to get here on time, and they flew that flag. And that flag has a certificate to prove it was done. And I'm passing this on to the 4th generation Andros to serve our country. I love you.
got. That's all I got.
Will the following personnel please report to your assigned positions here on the stage? Chief Warrant Officer Andros, EOD Chief Adam Dexter, United States Navy retired, and Lance Corporal Jesse Andros. Chief Dexter, he also served with Tim at EOD Mobile Unit 6, Detachment Plan, or actually at Mobile Unit 6, Det 6. Jesse, however, was only 5 years old and starting kindergarten then.
For 27 and a half years, this sailor has stood the watch. While some of us were in our bunks at night, this sailor stood the watch. While some of us were in school learning our trade, this shipmate stood the watch. Yes, even before some of us were born into this world, this shipmate stood the watch. In those years when the storm clouds of war were seen brewing on the horizon of history, this shipmate stood the watch. Many times he would cast an eye ashore and see his family standing there, needing his guidance and help, needing that hand to hold during those hard times, but he still stood the watch. He stood the watch for 27 and a half years so that we, our families, and our fellow countrymen could sleep soundly in safety each and every night, knowing that a sailor stood the watch. Today, we are here to say, shipmate, the watch stands relieved, relieved by those you have trained, guided, and led. Shipmate, you stand relieved. Lance Corporal Jesse Andros, and salute.
Will the guests stay standing for the benediction?
Before I pray, I can't believe that we've come to the end of a deep sea retirement without once giving a big hoo-yah. So please join me. Hoo-yah, deep sea!
Hoo-yah, deep sea!
Let us pray. Lord, as we leave this place, but never your presence, may your presence go with Tim and with Sam. Bless their going out and their coming in. Give them favor as they shove off and submerge into new careers and a new life. As you have been with them in the past years, Lord, continue to watch and care for them. Give them safe passage through the waters of future endeavors. Give them fair winds and following seas wherever they may go. Oh God, hear us as we pray. Keep all of us safe today and every day. In my Savior's name, Jesus the Christ. Amen.
Thank you, Sal. Will the guests please remain standing to honor a shipmate going ashore? Bosun, stand tall side, boys. Stand by to pipe the side.
Sideways. Left. Face. Forward. March. Sideways. Left, right, face.
Shipmate going ashore. Chief Warrant Officer 4, retired, departing. Navy family, retired, departing. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the retirement ceremony. On behalf of Tim Andros and his family, you are all cordially invited to accompany them here for the reception. Thank you for joining us today.